Hey, it's David BreezeFlippers. It's a little early for my end of the week video, but there's a reason for it. Not that sales are crazy right now. Sales are good. They're steady. And, sure and steady wins the race, right? Had a couple sales yesterday, got one going out today. I'm sure I'll get a few more today. Just the kind of way it usually goes. And towards the weekend, generally picks up a lot. Kind of hoping that's the way it's going to be this week as well. But the main reason I'm putting this out today is because the internet's blowing up with the email that eBay sent out earlier this week. So we all know promoted listings are changing. We've known some of the changes were coming along anyway, but now they finally announced it and told us a date. So it's interesting because YouTube's blowing up with it. That's all it's in my feed, in my Facebook feed. I've seen it out there. I've made some comments on Facebook, but I haven't watched any of the videos yet. And the reason why is because I have my own opinion and I want to give my opinion. And it's, I'm not going to draw the line and say I'm all for what eBay's doing, but I kind of understand it. So I like to talk about it, get your opinion. So let's dig into it.
Find it, flip it, ship it, we're BreezeFlippers. Keep it moving. Find it, flip it, ship it. Repeat.
Okay. First, let's talk real quick about what sold, because I know some people like that. Only a couple sales went out yesterday, but they were good sales. I did sell, and I'll pop these up on the screen because I shipped them already. We sold a comic set. This is a lot of number 1 and 3 through 11 of the, so 10 books of the Defiant comics from Jim Shooter, Warriors of Plasm. So Jim Shooter did pass away early this year, so some of his books are still doing pretty good. So if you have Jim Shooter books, you might take a look at them, see if they're of any more value if you're looking to sell them. But these, I've had actually several copies of this, but it's an almost complete set, but I didn't have number 2, but it ended up selling for $21.24. That did go out with free shipping, but it was shipped to Orlando, so cost me very little ship. So also yesterday, some more of these Hallmark ornaments sold. I was so excited to sell them, and I love it because honestly it's one of those things where Sherry and I debated back and forth about buying this, but we finally decided, okay, let's just drop it, get it. We bought them all, and it was fun. We buy it all, but we bought everything on the table and some other stuff from Department 56. So we were starting probably close to, or starting to get close to making our money back already. But this one was the Hallmark keepsake ornament lot from Peanuts, Charlie Brown. It was, one of them was complete, and there's another one that's just had ornaments 2 through 5. Sold it for $44.99, and I think it got $6.99 or $7.99 shipping. I can't remember. I don't see it on the screen. But anyway, so that went out, and so that's making some money. We're also still going to have that auction on Dibdit next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, dibdit.com. Come use BreezeFlips, and you can get $5 off your first $10 purchase. But we're going to be selling a whole bunch of those Hallmark ornaments on that show. And today, or I should say last night, actually sold a Lady Death trade paperback. So this is volume 4, Lady Death Rules, Coffin Comics. It's brand new, basically. Ended up selling that for $25.83, and that's going to go out with free shipping. So let's get to the meat of this subject today. The email that everybody's talking about, right? So earlier this week, you got an email. If you are a promoted listings user, now if you're not a promoted listings user, you may or may not have gotten this email. I don't know. But if you are a promoted listings user, you got an email thanking you for being one. And they were talking about how exclusive ad placement with priority changes. That's going to change a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the big thing that people are really upset about is the updated attribution for general campaigns. So starting January 13th, 2026, the items listed and promoted with a general strategy will use the following attribution definition when reporting sales and charging ad fees. An attributed sale will be when any buyer purchases the promoted item within 30 days of any click on the ad. The item must be promoted at the time of the click and the time of the sale. The seller will be charged the ad rate at the time of the sale. So that's a summary of the biggest part of the email. We're going to get into it and break it down and kind of explain a little bit better. But it just basically, those are the two things that it says. But the attributed sale will be when any buyer purchases the promoted item within 30 days of any click on the ad. So, and I think that's that is the one that's setting the internet on fire, to be honest with you. So let's start with the first part though, the exclusive ad slot. Now, if you're not running exclusive, or if you're just running standard promoted listings, what eBay calls a general campaign, your items will no longer appear in the very top position. So that means that it's very simple. That slot's going to go to the priority campaigns, which run at a cost per click model instead of a percentage of sale model, right? Which is what the general does. So for the most of us that are using the 2 to 3 or 2 to 5% promoted rate, our listings are still going to show, just not in the prime spot. So think of it this way. You're moving from first class to business. That's really what it is, right? So you're flying in the back a little bit more, but you're still going to have your ads up there. You're still going to be promoted. You're still visible, but basically somebody's paying for that front seat in first class. So that makes sense, right? But this is the big part, the attribution change that I think, and I'm looking over here because I want to make sure I get it right and explain it right. But this is what is making everybody crazy. So let's see if we can figure this out. This is the one about the attribution, but this is how eBay decides when to charge a promoted listing fee. So right now, here's how it works. This is the way it works now. If someone clicks on your ad, your promoted item, and then buys that same item within 30 days, eBay calls that a direct sale. You will pay the ad rate, whatever ad rate you set, whether it's 2%, 15, 20, 30%, whatever you've got, okay? If they click one promoted item and then they buy a different promoted item from you, that's called a halo sale, okay? The ad that you pay for that ad fee as well. So in other words, the halo sale is if they click in through your store through one item, but they ended up going to another item and they buy that, you're going to pay the ad fee for that. All right, so on the old system, basically the buyer clicked, the buyer bought. So starting January 13th, it changes to what they call an attributed sale. So any buyer who buys that item within 30 days of anyone clicking on that promoted item will be counted as a promoted sale. Does that make sense? It's crazy, and I think this is what everybody's getting at, but let me put it in plain English. If buyer A clicks on your ad Monday, but buyer B buys that same item 2 weeks later, eBay considers that a promoted sale. So you'll pay your ad fee at the time of the sale, not the time to click, and only if it's still promoted, right? Okay, so it sounds scary, but this is basically eBay simplifying how they count clicks. They're saying if your ad brought attention to that item in the last 30 days, then you're going to pay when it sells. You're still only paying when that item sells, not per click. That part hasn't changed. So, it does sound complicated, but it's really not. It does make things a little bit easier if you're doing promoted ads. So why is everybody freaking out? Well, I think the new definition really got to people because they thought they were going to be paying ad fees on random sales that had nothing to do with their ad. In reality, it only happens if the same item had a click in the 30 days that it was promoted. It's not like eBay is going to charge you for unrelated items. They're just casting a wider net on the ones that do get exposure. So their thought is they're bringing people to your store or to your listings. You're gonna, through the promoted items, you're still gonna pay for some promoted items. So basically they're just connecting the dots between clicks and sales. And it's not really punishing sellers, but this is the same attribution model though, is my understanding, and from everything I've read, this is the same attribution model they're already using in UK, Germany, and Australia. So is it, I don't know. So it does sound it's not complicated, but it does sound kind of scary, and it does sound like we're going to be paying more. And maybe we will be. I do, and I have said, and I will still say, I promote my items at an average of 2 to 3%, sometimes 4, just depending on what they are. But let's say 2 to 4% max. I don't go too much over that. So when I'm looking at it, in my head, I know I could be paying 4 cents on the dollar for everything I sell. If I sell something, for $100, it costs me $4, $2 to $4 to sell it. But I know that I'm also getting that priority listing, and we know we're getting it up, at the top, and I'm going to get more views. Now, I will tell you for a fact that 50% or better of my sales come from organic listings. I don't pay for those. A little less than 50% come from promoted. So I tried going without promoted several times. I've talked about this, and it did not work. My sales dropped. They went down by half. So I went back to promoting, even at the small percent that I promote. It's built into my fees. So I think, you know, what we forget sometimes is advertising is a cost of doing business. If you're a small reseller like me, I'm not full time. I don't have, you know, I have 1,100 items in my store or somewhere in that area, but you know, I'm not a big time seller. I'm not a big time influencer either. So what traffic I get, I have to work through either a good listing, organically done well listing, which I try to make all my listings good, or it comes through a promoted listing. So, but the reality is marketing is part of any business, right? If you had your own Shopify store, or you would have to pay Google or Facebook or somebody to push traffic to your site. You can't just put up a website and pray and hope that it gets there. Now, eventually some SEO, yeah, good SEO might drive people to it, but you're never going to be able to, I mean, you may never be able to get to a point where you're making the same kind of sales that you would with eBay that has millions and millions of eyeballs, okay? If you owned a brick and mortar store, typically a brick and mortar store, most businesses spend between 5 and 10% of their revenue on advertising, whether that be local ads, phone books, well, not phone books as much anymore. We used to sell phone books, but advertising of any kind, whether it's, you know, in online or wherever, they're having to drive people to their store. And yes, you can use word of mouth. And yes, there are a lot of organic marketing type of things that you can do that don't cost you, but they tend to work a little slower. You got a good reputation, you got a good store, people are going to keep coming to it, right? So that's always helpful. You get your repeat customers, all that stuff. But the reality is, to get customers to your store, you had to pay people. You had to pay somebody to drive some advertising to it. So on eBay, you can get your item in front of millions of buyers for 2 to 3%. That's pretty good value, in my opinion. That's just, you know, basic marketing. It's cheaper than most places that you do online. So if you're trying to compare it and say, am I really, you know, is it worth it? It's worth it to me. Your business may be different, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And this is really part of it, is that, you know, a lot of these people that are putting the videos out are big influencers. I'm not a big influencer. You can see by my channel. I am so happy to have the 800 people that do subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. If you have subscribed, I appreciate you. But, you know, I'm not a huge influencer. And if you look at my eBay store, it's not, you know, it's not being driven by thousands and thousands and thousands of followers to the store. I have about 200 and I don't know, maybe now 295, I think, followers to the store. And I mean, I have thousands of buyers, right? In which I can do emails to and different things. I can use newsletters and stuff. I can do all that, put them in buyer groups and do all that stuff, which is great. That's free. If you have a store, you can do that with newsletters and everything. You can market your own business, but I don't have the kind of reach that a lot of these influencers, big influencers do. A lot of them you'll hear say, oh, I've never advertised. I don't do promotion. And that's fine. And there's a reason for it. If you have 50,000 or 100,000 viewers on YouTube or social media, or some of them have 500,000 on Facebook, you probably don't need to do any promotion. Their promotion is their social media, which is great. So I guess I would preface to say, if you're listening to these people that have a lot of followers, make sure you're getting the right information for you, not for them. It's different. So if they don't promote, great. But I have seen a lot of people saying, I'm stopping, I'm not promoting anymore. Great, that's fine. But if you can do it, super. Influencers, they have visibility. Visibility means sales, and that's great. So if you get to the point where you're a big influencer, you may not have to. If your store has 2 to 10,000 followers, just think of it. Every time you put something new out, eBay sends out emails. It says, hey, you're a person you're following, this is new stuff. You're getting that organic marketing that's coming automatically for you guys from your followers. Now, we do get some sales, I think, through stuff that I think that people get my emails, and I know people do because I see the open rate. It's almost 1% for all the newsletters I send out. I have a 33% view, so basically that's pretty good for the newsletters that are getting sent out. So I know people are seeing that. But I think you have to kind of look at it to say, when I make sure that if anybody's telling you not to promote, just keep that in mind, right? Everybody's different. Every business is different. You may not need to promote. If you're selling unique items, one-off items, things that are just hard to find, you probably don't need to promote. That's probably going to get a good organic search, right? You're just going to be able to pull it up because it's very specific. Somebody's looking for that specific item. There's not a lot of competition. But if you're selling, the same shirt that 1,000 other sellers are selling, there's a pretty good chance that you need to separate yourself somehow, whether that be through price or through promotions or something to drive that sale. And that's just the bottom line, guys. I mean, that's just the way it works. So, so I kind of see, what's happening out there. I think, everybody's talking about, and this is what I'm saying. I've been on Facebook. I've seen it just all over the place. People are just, I've replied to a few of them. I probably ruffled feathers, but I'm not taking the eBay stance on the side on this. Yes, this is, it sucks, but it is what it is, right? But let's be real. If half the sellers right now get out there and they pull their ads, the ones who stay are going to benefit. So, fewer advertisers mean better placement and often lower amounts eventually in the lower amounts. Now, I do agree with a couple people said, well, if everybody pulled their ads, it would reduce the, it would probably change what the cost per ad is for a lot of us. And that may be true. It may be coming down because right now that percentage keeps moving up based on how many people are advertising in that category, right? So more people advertising, then it's harder to get your ad towards the top. You're paying 8, 9, 10, 12%. But like I said, I'm always going to pay that 2 to 4, right in that range usually. And right now it's around 3, to be honest with you. So I think if people are yelling about quitting, the quiet resellers that are sitting there going, we'll just let it ride, you're probably going to see different results in January. I think too, this is the thing about it. I guess I would say I'm not a casual seller because I'm constantly working on it. So, but I think a casual seller would be somebody who says, I got to throw this up on eBay. I'm going to see if it sells. If you're just selling a few things here and there, I don't think you need to worry about anything. If you don't promote you don't have to promote. You can kind of just focus on the category that you're on. And if it's something you can let sit for a while, then great, let it sit and it may eventually sell. If you feel like you really want to just sell it quick and you're just looking for money, then promote it. Do the 3 to 5 to 8%, whatever it says, and get it sold very quick, or just factor that into the price, especially if you're selling something out of your house, because let's face it, you've already sunk that cost, right? But, for part-timers or stores that are growing, I think you have to kind of look at promotions as part of your business, right? I would like to get to a point someday that I have 10,000 followers on my store and I didn't have to promote because it kind of self-promotes, right? But we're not there yet. So I know that I'm going to have to be, do a little promotion. It's cost of business for me. It's what I'm willing to put in. I'm comfortable with it. You have to be comfortable with it with your business, guys. That's really it. So what are my thoughts, kind of final thoughts on this whole thing? At the end of the day, visibility in any business has a cost, right? Whether it be labor or money, there's a cost. So if you want to get yourself out in front of people, it's going to cost you something. These big creators and the influencers, they pay with their time and content. I mean, it's not easy. I promise you, having done videos now and doing this, I enjoy it, but it's not an easy process. It takes time to edit a video. It takes time to put it together. I'm spending an additional probably 10 hours a week doing this. Only is a labor of love, guys, a labor of love, but it is something that I enjoy doing. But they're doing the same thing. Maybe they're not paying for that, but they are paying it somewhere. So it's like one way or another, we're paying it somehow, right? So I don't know. Before you turn your promoter listings off, I guess you kind of ask yourself, what's your plan for traffic then? Are you okay with reducing the number of views that you get to your site? I mean, it's fine if you don't promote, and it may work for you. It may work for a lot of businesses. But if you're not promoting, how our business is going to find you? I don't know, good organic listings, maybe, I don't know. So I'll be curious to hear what you guys say. Drop your comments below. Let me know what you're doing, what your strategy is, how you're dealing with this, because I'm just kind of curious. Again, this isn't meant to say anything against anybody I haven't watched any videos out there yet that have talked about this, but I have seen a whole bunch of videos. They're popping up in my feed all over the place. And, I just think that it is kind of the cost of doing business right now. Yeah, eBay's grabbing more money and they're going to. And I expect, like I said, my promoted listings to my organic listing sales, it's 50% organic right now. And do I expect that the needle to move? Probably. Because I don't know how many of those are going to get attributed. It may go a little bit the other way. I may get less organic sales and more promoted sales. But the way I look at it, the way I see it, I just factor that into my price, right? I know 3% of the whatever I sell this is for is going to be for promoted listings. I just plan it. And if for any reason I don't pay that 3%, it comes through an organic sale, that's a win. Okay. So I just look at it as, that 3% is part of the business. And, when you're looking at your margins and trying to figure out items, everybody has a percentage. For me, it's 20 to 25%. I'm figuring that's my cost of the item. That's the overhead, all the work, everything that goes into it, the fees, blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's just figure 25%. So if I sell something for $100, I'm hoping my take out of that 75. That's kind of the way. But sometimes that's not always the case, because if I paid $25 for something and I sold it for $100, obviously it's going to be less. But there's just most of the items, the everyday stuff. I just try to factor in that 20 to 25% in my head. And I still try to keep the prices. That's the hardest thing, guys, is trying to price things so that it's competitive with everybody else. I don't price it at the bottom. I don't price it at the top. I price it just below the top. That's always the way I work. And then I'll reevaluate it every 90 days and see if that price is still good. And if it's not, we change it. And sometimes, I see things where things are selling for more. You might move it up. Not as often as I move them down. But I don't know, guys. It's this is what it is. And I think, as far as eBay is trying to simplify it, they're calling it more simplified reporting. But we know, it is just a way that they're going to get a little bit more money. But here's kind of the way I look at it, guys. I'd rather pay that than higher fees, because I can control this, right? I can't control the fees. So if they come back in next year and they say, okay, we're raising everything 2%, that's a bigger deal to me. And that's a bigger deal to a lot of us, because we can't control that. Then we know that we're going to have to pay 15% on something that we're paying 13% now. That is a big difference, right? So to me, I can say, look, if I don't want to pay that 3% in advertising, I'll just stop advertising. So, and for all those that are going to quit, that said, hey, I'm quitting it, I'm pulling all mine, just remember, even if you turn it off, I think they have 30 days. So it's going to take 30 days for that to disappear, because if somebody clicked on that link and you shut it off tomorrow, if they clicked on it today and you shut it off tomorrow, they buy that within 30 days. I think it's still attributed to that. You might want to check that and see, because I've seen a lot of people saying, I'm turning it off right now, and they're trying to figure out how to turn everything off. You may still be paying it for a while. So just keep that in mind. This is Q4 too. So what a great time for them to come out and say this, because everybody's shutting off their promoted listings. I don't know, maybe that'll boost up all the ones that keep them on. Who knows? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'd love to hear your comments. Please let me know what you think. Good, bad, or indifferently. Just don't yell at me for being the messenger. It's just what it is. If you haven't seen the email yet, let me know. I'll put it in the show notes, and so that you guys can read it if you need it. But I think everybody's seen it. Now, if you're not promoting, you may not have gotten it. So that may be with it. So we'll see what happens. I hope the rest of your week is good. If we do a good night's sales overnight and tomorrow, I may put a video out tomorrow too, or may follow up with this. We'll see what happens. So I'm curious to see what everybody says. I'm David, BreezeFlippers. We'll see ya.
BreezeFlippers on the scene, bright sun, smooth screen, click, flip, ship, it's clean. We ride the tide, we chase the dream. From the beach to the bin, we're digging gold, finding treasure in the things you sold. Retro finds and gear so tight, we flip it fast, ship it right. Got that Florida coast glow, sipping deals like whoa. Online hustle in tow, now hit that subscribe, let's